I saw this movie a few days ago and it's still like sitting with me. Like there's so much of it that I absolutely loved. I'm a musical theater nerd growing up, and it felt like a play and played out like a play, and it was superb. The relationship between Rogers and Hart is what like really jumped out. You described them as like kind of like the Lennon-McCartney of their time. These like two masters who really approached creating in two very different ways. And you mentioned how in approaching the part that like understanding their friendship was the most important thing. How would you both describe their relationship, and what about it worked for creating?
Well, I think people could write books about that. One is that they didn't step on each other's toes. One, they had very different gifts. One is a musical genius, and the other is a wordsmith. If you listen to the Rogers and Hart songbook, these lyrics are still astonishing. The rhymes are funny and playful and profound, which is a really rare combination to be both funny and profound, which is, I think, what the movie aspires to be, is kind of like a Rogers and Hart song. But I think that was their dynamic, and obviously Rogers found that with Oscar Hammerstein as well. But it's a magic collaboration. I think Larry Hart is almost Dylan-esque in his ability to just rifle off words that tell a story and communicate in a profound way. And it was matched by these unbelievable soaring melodies.
I think it's unconscious, but I think in some ways you have to recreate those two very different notes that they play. And that's why I think like a lot of the time in our dialogue, we're sort of interrupting each other and moving, and then somebody speaks and then you go under. And so you have to understand that I don't know, there's sort of musicality almost in the way we speak to sort of represent the kind of extraordinary, unique, singular music that they made.
Absolutely. I mean, in their debates and their arguments, I mean, like you can feel the 25-year friendship, but it also feels like their friendship is hanging on by a thread.
Well, totally. Well, it's so verbose. You know, I noticed that in the film last night. That it's incredibly verbose, and just before they sort of part in the scene on the stairs, it's just completely silent.
Completely silent.
There's nothing. Yeah. It's like
there's nothing left to say.
There's nothing. It just hangs in the air, and that's musical. That's sometimes when you're looking at a film script or a play script, particularly, it's the music of it, or even the way it looks like on page, tells you how to perform it in some ways.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, in the way that they each approach creating, or the way they talk about creating art, right? Where Hart talks about it, like the way he talks about it is almost as if it's like catching inspiration, like almost like catching a wave, almost, and riding the creative force. Whereas like in Rogers, I mean, talks about it as like, well, yeah, but it's also a business.
Yeah.
What type of an artist would you guys say you are?
I mean, I find being an interpretive artist, I don't write or anything, but I just know it when I read it. When I read it, it's something resonates with me that I think, usually it's something that I recognize in myself that resonates with me, and then if there's enough that I'm curious about looking into other aspects of myself that I know exist, usually I'm looking for like something that's tapping into some sort of secret in me that I want to expose without telling anybody what that is. That's usually what attracts me to a character, personally.
In general, I like to work because I think the more you're working, the more likely inspiration is to come. There's a certain magic to people like Hart. I think he liked to create chaos out of which a depth of feeling would erupt. And I think that's part of why they're breaking up. That's an exhausting thing to be around.
For sure.
Yeah, totally exhausting. I think that's it. I think it's work. I think it's about sort of downloading the script a lot of the time. It's the work. Is like you just get in there, and I do think something strange can happen where if you know it really well, because I think sometimes if you don't know it, it becomes an exercise on the day, it becomes a memory exercise, and that can be mistaken for, I can't find it. Actually, you just need to really know it, and then you have the confidence to be able to play with it. And then I think if you have that within you, then you can surprise yourself.
I think she recognizes she's being adored by one of the great appreciators of beauty.
There's no way around that one, is there? When the girl loves the guy with all of her heart and he just doesn't return her feeling? Do you have any idea what that feels like?
Nobody ever loved me that much.
There's a place, for art that's, for entertainment and for art that puts a mirror up, And so, I guess, where would you say Rogers actually lands?
Well, it's like that expression that I love, which is tell the truth but tell it slant. Just because something is light doesn't necessarily mean there's no message in it. I think that's a real thing about suffering or tragedy is sometimes overpraised in relation to things that are lighter. I think that's where he would feel. He says it in the script. He goes, I think people relate to it, even if it's for a second, or even if they're not aware that they are relating to it in that well. Something is going in.
We write together for a quarter a century, and the first show he writes with someone else is gonna be the biggest hit he ever had. Am I bitter?
Larry.
Yes.